morning. My name is Michael Green. I'm the North American Sales Leader for IBM Case Manager. And on behalf of myself, Brian Rubino, Randy Cunningham, and the entire IBM team, I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity of presenting today. We firmly believe we have the best technology to meet your use case, and we're very excited about showing it to you. Next slide. Let me start by briefly talking about IBM Case Manager. We began thinking about IBM Case Manager in 2009, and really we thought about what do you need from square one to build cases. And the first thing we realized is that you have to have access to information. Wherever that information may be, whatever type that information may be, whether it's data-based information, whether it's content-based information, whether it's videos, audio files, doesn't matter. The case manager needs to have access to that information programmatically so they don't spend all their time searching for it. The other thing we realized was that workflow for cases are very different than standard workflows, which are typically choreographed ahead of time. Case workflows are dictated by the information in front of the caseworker and the scenarios around that. And so we had to turn workflow kind of on its head and allow the caseworker to initiate the next step as opposed to the process to initiate the next step, but at the same time leverage the efficiencies that workflow brings to the picture. And as you'll see in the demo, we built a brand new task-based workflow model to enable that. A third key concept here was around analytics. Back as we moved through 2010 through now, big data became more and more important, and we began to look at the analytics and look at the power of analytics and thought about how do we bring all this power down to the level of the caseworker itself? How do we allow the caseworker to not only leverage analytics looking at the information in front of them, but leverage analytics to look at similar information so they can see the forest for the trees, but also be able to focus very much in on the information or the tree in front of them to get the most that they can. As you'll see, we incorporated a number of different analytics directly into the user interface here to enable you to do just that. Beyond all these things, we have also realized that as we move more and more into the mobile environment, it's very important to access this information anywhere and everywhere. So the mobile client was developed to enable people in the field, whether you're in the field somewhere in the United States, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, it doesn't matter. You have access to all the information you would have as if you're sitting at your desktop. Moreover, once you have access to information, once you're accessing that information, it became very important to make sure that we had an analytics tool here, rather an audit tool here, so that you can audit everything automatically. Therefore, everything that happens in Case Manager, whether it's from opening a document to acting on a document to making a decision, all of which is captured and all of which is persisted over time, both in the audit trail as well as in the case file. And finally, we wanted to make sure that all the applications that we're using here, all the software that we put into this bundle was best of breed. And if you look at the Forrester reports, the Gartner reports, or any other analytical reports, you'll see that both from an ECM point of view, from an analytics point of view, as well as from a content or case manager point of view, we're talking about best of breed capabilities throughout. Let's go to the next slide. There's only two things I really want to highlight before I hand off to Randy for the demo. The first thing is, part of this bundle you get Watson Content Analytics. Content Analytics gives you the ability to look at thousands, even tens of thousands of documents, ingest them, read them in their common language, and find commonalities in them. So that whether those documents were initially on microfiche, or old bits of paper, or old files, or brand new made digital documents, we can access them, we can analyze them, and we can provide those commonalities directly in the user interface for the researcher. This will save a lot of time and make the research a lot more effective and efficient. And finally, let's go to the next slide. It's very important that everything is persisted. So part of this package is a content repository, FileNet P8. What that provides is the ability of everything that goes on in the case file to be put in a case file, and that case file to be persisted in and inviolate over time. So that in 5 years from now, if you have to look at a case file that was initially created for the Afghan war, you'll be able to access that information, find everything that's put in there, and begin your research there. If you get a FOIA request for something that was done now, 10 years from now, you'll be able to access that information, access all the notes that are associated to that investigation, and respond to that FOIA request accordingly. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Randy to give the demo. And once again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Let's go ahead and get started. Our demonstration is going to follow an investigative use case. We'll be playing three primary roles. The first role will be our case researcher, Paula Small, who will review one of her cases, the various documents, associate a new lead to the case, and then request field operations. Let's go ahead and get started. Here in Case Manager, Paula Small has various numbers of views that are available to her that might be associated with a mission view, an investigation task view, a mission request, or a laboratory view, for example. One of the things that Paula can do is by selecting any number of one of the cases, here in this case, James Hood, she receives summary information about the case. She can also review the documents. So here we should note that a component operation, such as a stored search, could be performed when the case is created to return all related content to the service member. We also provide an inline viewer. So in this case, we can take a look at the service member's photo. We can also take a look at the personnel file. We should also note that IBM provides a capture product to capture paper and perform optical character recognition and image enhancement on those paper documents. We also provide annotation capabilities right within the viewer. She can also take a look at the various tasks that are associated with this case and an audit history. Let's say Paula has received a lead on a field observation report, and it might be related to one of her cases. If she moves to the mission view of that lead, she notes that there was also an incident, or XY coordinates of the incident, that could be plotted on a GIS system. In this case, we're using Google Maps. There can also be associated content as part of the lead. So here we have a field lead image. We'll go ahead and open that. One of the things that Paula notes is that a sticky note has been placed by her colleague, Carly Hall. She can open the annotation, and she notes that there was a witness of an aircraft crash during World War II, and this artifact was found nearby. In addition to the component operations, one of the things that our researcher can do is also search for content. And IBM offers content analytics for this use case. So here our researcher can do a little more than just keyword searching. So for example, we might be interested in various facet information about the corpus of information that we might have on hand. Let's say, for example, noun phrases as they relate to one of our service members, in this case, James Hood. Here our researcher gets frequency and correlation information about her particular query. She can also leverage the named entity analytics and take a look at associated people and location information that might be correlated to James Hood. Back at our lead, we may want to now associate this lead to one of my existing cases. To do that, Paula would scroll to the Related Cases widget and select Add. Here she could choose from any of the case properties, say for example case name, and search for James Hood. Here she can now associate the lead to one of her cases. Let's move now to that investigation. Let's say that now, after reviewing the information and the lead associated with James Hood, she would like to make a mission request. To do so, she would merely either select that from the task list. Here, in this case, I've added it as a button. Let's now move to our mission specialist. In the next scene, we're going to move to our mission specialist, Dave Adams, who's going to, after receiving the email notification for a field operations mission request, he's going to perform a site visit, conduct a mission, recover any remains, and add those to a laboratory session. To do this, Dave Adams will use his mobile device. Let's move into the demo. After receiving email notification, Dave Adams will start the IBM Content Navigator mobile app and move into Case Manager. Based on his role as a field operations mission specialist, he receives mission requests that are prioritized for him. It should be noted that all Case Manager inboxes can be filtered based on things such as priority. Let's go ahead and open our high priority mission request. Here Dave gets all the case information associated with the mission request, in this case for the case for James Hood. He can view instructions about the particular task. In this case, he's instructed to review the country-specific policy and FAQ information. He can also view any of the content just like we saw through standard web desktop. During the field operations, Dave is going to go and actually take a photograph of the remains and add that to the case. Here we choose to add a document from his camera roll. And choose Add. Just to verify, you can actually open the image and view that. At this point, Dave will now return the case back to the researcher. Okay, let's move into the third and final role of our investigative use case for the lab session. Here, our laboratory specialist, Carly Hall, will review the artifacts, provide her lab findings, and return to the researcher such that the case summary report can be generated. Here we're logged in as Carly Hall, our laboratory specialist. Here she receives a filtered list of laboratory requests sorted by priority. She's going to take her high priority task and open that. And here, as you saw, we have the case of James Hood, our missing service member. And Carly can review all of the same persistent case information that we've seen in the previous steps, including the service member information, the case information, the mission, and now our laboratory information. One of the things that she will need to do is review the lab session so she can actually take a look at the findings from our mission specialist during the field operations and the remains that were removed from the site investigation. She may also want to engage a historian to take a look at the field lead image that had came across from our initial lead, and then also cross-reference that with a aircraft reference manual to determine whether that the artifact that was found was in fact from the type of aircraft that our service member was on board. Once her review has been completed, she can indicate her findings in the case information. So we'll move back to the Laboratory tab and indicate that both the evidence had been received and the findings are complete. Once that's done, she can update the case information and indicate that the resolution of the case is going to change now from unidentified to identified, and now return the case to our researcher. Okay, so we're now back to Paula Small, our case researcher, and we're sitting on our James Hood case, and the summary information now indicates that the resolution has been identified, and we have a new task associated to generate the case summary package. So we're going to go ahead and step into that. So what we've done is we've leveraged the case manager pages to build a wizard style interface to generate the case package. So for example, the first step is to select what properties that we want to include in the package. I'm going to select all of them and choose next. Here we're being asked if we would like to include the related cases. So if you recall, we associated the lead and the Thomas McMahon case to the James Hood case, and we're going to we can either include those or add additional or remove those. I'm just going to go ahead and select next. Here what we can do is include dynamic properties that may be coming from some of those external data sources that we talked about. I'm going to go ahead and just select next. And now I'm going to include all the case comments, history, and events, and we'll select some of the documents here and move those to be included with part of the case package. And we'll go ahead and say next. And we can actually also preview the report actually before we generate it if we like, and get a look and see what we're going to actually end up with. And at this point, I'm going to just go ahead and complete the task. And actually, one further step that we wanted to mention is that we also now have generated the case package archive and summary report here. And now we may want to also leverage the integration to Box such that we can share the case summary report with outside sources. So I'm going to go ahead and send the case summary package to Box, and now at this point I'm I can basically choose to share this information with external sources that may not have a logon to the case manager application. Okay, that concludes our demonstration for today. For more information, visit the IBM.com website and the Analytics Platform and Smarter Content site, and I would like to thank you for your time.